I didn't wake up one morning addicted. I woke up one morning aware that something had been feeding on my attention for years, quietly, patiently, without urgency. I didn't feel shocked anymore. I felt drained. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just a habit. Habits don't hollow you out. This did. I could still function. I could still pray. I could still work, laugh, show up. But something in me had become thin, like a veil between who I was and who I was meant to be. I didn't feel dirty. I felt disconnected. And disconnection is always spiritual before it is behavioral. For a long time, I told myself the usual lies, that it was stress, that it was loneliness, that it was normal, that everyone does it. But deep inside, I knew something was off, because the moment after, the silence was heavier than it should have been. Not guilt, weight, like something had passed through me and left. I would sit there and think, why do I feel less present than I did 5 minutes ago? That question followed me for years. What finally broke me open wasn't fear of consequences, it was grief. I realized I couldn't feel depth anymore. Music didn't move me the same way. Prayer felt shallow. My attention was fractured. I couldn't sit still. I always needed stimulation. I was never fully here. And one night, alone, no screen on, no noise, I felt something that scared me more than addiction itself. Spiritual dullness. I wasn't rebelling. I was numbing. And numbness is a form of bondage that doesn't scream, it whispers. That night, I asked a question that changed everything. I said it out loud, quietly, like I didn't want to wake whatever had been benefiting from my silence. I said, what if this is not neutral, not morally, spiritually? What if this thing has intelligence? What if it trains me to leave myself? What if it survives on distraction? That question sent me down a path I didn't plan. I started listening to testimonies I had avoided. Former porn industry workers, former occult practitioners, ex-witches, ex-Satanists, people who had nothing to gain by lying anymore. I wasn't looking for drama, I was looking for patterns, and the pattern was always the same. They didn't talk about sex, they talked about access, about attention, about fragmentation. One woman who had practiced ritual magic said something that landed in my chest like a stone. Sexual imagery is one of the fastest ways to pull a human out of their body and into fantasy. Once you live there long enough, something else can sit in the body you abandoned. I didn't know if I believed her, but my body reacted like it recognized the truth. Another former occultist said pornography functions like a doorway, not because of what you see, but because of what you give. Focus, breath, imagination. He said attention is currency in the spiritual realm. Whatever you stare at long enough gains influence over you. That sentence wouldn't leave me alone, because when I looked honestly at my life, I saw how scattered I had become, how easily pulled, how little authority I had over my own mind. I realized then that I had been fighting the wrong battle. I was trying to stop a behavior without addressing the spiritual agreement underneath it. The agreement to escape discomfort, the agreement to dissociate, the agreement to trade presence for relief. And agreements don't break by force, they break by awareness. So I stopped trying to quit. I know that sounds wrong, but quitting made it a war. Wars exhaust you. Instead, I chose something quieter and much harder. I chose to stay. When urges came, I didn't argue with them, I didn't rebuke them. I didn't shame myself. I sat down, feet on the floor, spine straight, and I breathed, slowly, deep into my nose, longer out through my mouth. Again. I let my body know it was safe to remain. At first, it was unbearable. My mind screamed for distraction. My body felt restless. That's when I learned the truth most people never learn. Urges are not about desire. They are about unfelt emotion. When I stayed long enough, the urge would crack open, and underneath it was sadness, or loneliness, or anger I had swallowed years ago. Porn wasn't the problem, it was the anesthetic. I began every morning the same way. Before my phone, before noise, I sat in silence and placed one hand on my chest. I breathed until my heartbeat slowed. Then I said one sentence, not as a mantra, but as a declaration. I choose presence over escape today. That was it. Some days I felt strong. Some days I didn't, but the sentence anchored me. At night, I created a closing ritual. Screens off early, lights low. I washed my hands slowly, intentionally, like I was removing residue. Then I sat with a notebook and asked one question. Where did my attention drift today, and why? Not to accuse myself, to reclaim myself. Writing revealed patterns: fatigue, rejection, overwork, old wounds. Once named, they lost power. Nothing hidden survives the light of awareness. Something subtle began to happen. My dreams changed, my sleep deepened, my thoughts slowed. I could feel when something was trying to pull me into fantasy, and instead of obeying, I breathed and stayed. That's when I understood. The spiritual path that works is not resistance, it is embodiment. Darkness has no power over a person who is fully present in their body. I also changed what I consumed, not just sexually, everything. News, social media, random videos, noise. I fasted from stimulation. At first it felt empty, then it felt clean, then it felt powerful. Silence returned my authority. I wasn't being pulled anymore, I was choosing. Prayer came back differently, not desperate, not forced, quiet, honest. I stopped asking God to remove the addiction and started asking Him to restore my attention. And that prayer was answered slowly, gently, permanently. Because attention is how we love. What we attend to shapes us. I learned something that day I will never forget. Evil doesn't always tempt you to do bad things. Sometimes it just keeps you distracted from becoming whole. Porn didn't make me immoral, it made me fragmented. And fragmentation is the real danger. A fragmented soul is easy to influence. Freedom didn't arrive like fireworks, it arrived like clarity. I could see the cost. I could feel when something didn't belong. I had authority again. And once authority returns, bondage loses its grip. If you are listening to this and something in you feels exposed, not shamed, but named, stay with that. Don't run. Sit. Breathe. Put your feet on the ground. Feel your body. Write what wants your attention tonight. This is how freedom begins. Quietly, spiritually, in truth. This path works because it restores what addiction steals: presence. And presence is power.